Okay.
Alright, so video is up and running. Alright, lady. Wait, hang on. What the fuck is my. What the fuck is my mic? Alright, Mangler speak.
Yep, I'm here.
Alright, so the audio should be working fine right now. Okay, so I was recently asked if we could do if an update for Virgil's Not Evil could be done. I once again asked Mangler to join me because I know Mangler gets a hard on for this sort of thing. And with that in mind, I suspect we're gonna go over the entire DMC Virgil's appearances, justifying why he's not evil, giving our reasons for it, and stuff like that. Now, I already have my reasons out, and while I would probably change a couple of things now, I'm gonna go ahead and let Mangler start this off on three, since you guys haven't heard Mangler's reasoning at any point. If you don't watch the
Well,
streams.
I actually might appreciate your reasoning first because I haven't heard your reasoning for it. Actually,
Wow, all this
yeah.
fucking time, and he never watched the
Well,
original
I think I
video.
did, but I forgot about it. So,
Okay, so we're going Virgil not evil. Okay,
if you would.
so my statement, my reasoning for Virgil not being evil inherently is that Virgil's actions in DMC3 were not with the inherent idea or motivation to destroy humanity or kill people. Virgil wanted to open the tower, get the Sparta, because Virgil ultimately knew that power was going to be necessary for the future, as DMC1 ended up proving. If the tower didn't summon the demons in the first place, no one would have been killed whatsoever. Virgil has no interest in killing mankind, enslaving them, or anything like that. He just wants power to protect the things he cares about, as he specifies throughout the game, and basically fucking lets it slip in a Freudian style when he's fighting Dante.
Hmm.
The other reason as well is ultimately Virgil again just doesn't go out of his way to kill anybody. He does kill humans in the manga, but they're specifically mugging him, and he even lets Lady go. And during their fight, he doesn't kill Lady when he has every right to kill Lady. There, she's interrupting his fight. She's entered the battlefield, and yet Virgil doesn't attack her or doesn't like legitimately go to kill her. He even tries reasoning with her for a portion before then he knocks her aside and then continues to fight with Dante. So
Hmm.
my main reason is just that his actions inherently are not with the intent to kill mankind. If the tower never awakened demons, Virgil wouldn't have summoned demons to kill those people. That's just a side effect of the tower to get his father's power. You can
Okay.
speak
Yeah.
now.
Sorry, I had to burp, so I muted myself. um. Well, I mean, I guess everyone here hasn't heard what I have to say. I've talked on various streams, but it's been like back and forth and back and forth. So, my reasoning for what like Virgil, whether or not defining Virgil as an evil, has more so to do with how we label like people heroes and villains in stories. And that generally speaking, the person who is the protagonist, or in this case, the antagonist, gets labeled either the hero or the villain, usually because the focus of the story is usually a hero. And the same thing for the antagonist is usually a villain. But this doesn't always have to be the case. To be the antagonist, you just have to be contrast the protagonist. You just need to be in their way and a force for them to be reckoned with that also causes them to react to the story. You have to push the story and the flow of it with your actions. To be a villain, well, by the definition of villain, it is someone or a person who does wicked or evil things. So you would have to prove that what Virgil does, to prove that he's a villain, you would have to prove that what Virgil does is evil or wicked, meaning the totality of his actions are bad. If we evaluate his actions in context, they are not, because even though they have negative consequences, and he does them for a selfish reason, they don't at large affect the world in a negative way. Because what he does, first of all, is that he goes on a quest to get the Sparta sword. He discovers the needs to do this in Ortuna, or at least we're led to believe that. And then in Limbo City, when he goes to Arkham's mansion, and then after he gets this information, the first thing he does is start breaking the seals. If again, the only reason he's using Temenagru at all is because he doesn't know the location of the Sparta sword. He just knows that Temenagru will give him direct access to it. But he also has Yamato, and he can just portal jump to where he could literally just portal jump to where the Force Edge was if he knew where its location is, but he doesn't. That's why he also has Arkham accompany him, because Arkham is his guide to the demon world. So he gets the Sparta sword at the very end of the game, and he doesn't get the amulet because Dante grabs it and then they fight. If he was given the Force Edge, just as a hypothetical, if he was given the Force Edge, he just again would have used the power to secure and protect himself. I know someone is going to tell me that like this isn't really too relevant to the broader point, but it is. Like, I have to mention Mundus here because Mundus is incredibly important, given that Vergil already knows Mundus is responsible for the death of his family, and he knows Mundus is going to be aware of him opening the portal, because Arkham already confirms this information in the manga, that when they open Temenagru, they're going to be waiting for the Demon King, that they await the day when he arrives to attack them. It's also confirmed in Before the Nightmare that a fully revived, or a non-fully revived Mundus would have been beaten by a fresh Vergil. So even if Vergil wasn't confident that he couldn't have beaten him without the Sparta sword, if it turns out that he didn't, he would have been able to beat him if Mundus arrived. And that defeating Mundus by definition saves billions of human lives. You can't sit here and tell me that it doesn't, because Mundus wants to enslave humans in the human world, and what humans he won't be able to enslave, he will destroy, kill, murder, eliminate in every capacity. So Vergil would obviously want to gain power to protect himself from being threatened by anything, which means the first thing he's going to do is take out the first person that could potentially be a threat to him, that has good reason to. He's not going to take out Dante because, again, Dante's not a threat to him, and even if Dante was, he doesn't have what it takes to kill Dante in DMC3. He hesitates to do this, and he fails to do so. Mundus, on the other hand, is fair play because Mundus ruined his entire life, and he has a reason to murder him. It's also a way to surpass his father, to do what his father couldn't. He has literally like 5 different textbook reasons for why he would want to eliminate Mundus. This is disregarding the fact that he doesn't even get the chance to do any of these things because Dante beats him, and he gets the Force Edge to Dante. He's the reason Dante wakes up to realizing that he needs to protect mankind. He's the compelling reason that forces Dante to become a private investigator. He's the reason Dante labels his shop Devil May Cry. He's the reason Dante even gets serious about tracking down Mundus. And he's the thing that gets the Force Edge to him, and inevitably the other half of the Burkett Amulet, which results in Dante defeating Mundus because he gets the Sparta sword to beat him in that battle. So if you're going to sit here and tell me that raising a tower that kills a couple thousand people,
just a couple thousand.
No, it is. Look at the cutscene. Look at the cutscene, and where he raises it in the tower. Most of the entire city is completely untouched. So I don't know how they all like. One thing that I really criticized about DMC3 was that when you go to the what's it called, the little locations in the I believe Mission 3.
Yeah, so you go to a bar, you go to a strip club, and then that's it. Then you go straight to the thing.
Right before you go there's in the first section where you see the enigmas after you kill them, obviously, so that you can investigate this without taking damage. It just says like the people have fled, and it's really weird because this is right where the tower went up, and the tower is on like the outskirts of where the city is. Like it's not even in the main hub of the city, or at least it's closer to one of the edges. So the rest of the city is completely untouched. So if you want to sit in there and tell me that like millions of people were just stuck in that one area, but there were somehow millions enough to exist in the rest of it, okay. There's still no way you can prove that the entire human race was located in that one portion of the city and just happened to conveniently be killed by Vergil.
No. More likely than not, like for DMC3, the body count's probably in the hundreds. I think to say like thousands is probably an overestimate.
Hundreds is probably a conservative estimate. I would say thousands is probably
okay.
safe.
So if it does confirm the people fled, and while we do see blood, at the very least we see blood in the strip club, there's nowhere near enough blood for that to be more than a handful of people. So assuming these people
Yeah.
aren't idiots like in DMC5 and just got the hell out of Dodge, I doubt it was more than like probably a couple hundred who died. Still a couple hundred who died, but not the intent
Yeah,
behind his
compared to
actions.
billions of people who would have died, that 100 is a drop in the bucket. That's not even that's not a fair comparison. You're irrational to believe otherwise. I'm sorry, but this is the truth. Billions,
All
like
right, take it easy
billions, is
there,
not
Videk.
comparable. Shut it. So, I can't really. I also can't. Well, I don't know what Virgil does as far as Nello Angelo, but you can't really call him evil in that capacity either,
Well,
because Virgil doesn't have control over any of his actions as Nello Angelo.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think anyone really needs to talk about Nello specifically because everything Nello does is by Mundus's design, not Virgil's. And even then, Virgil leaves behind his amulet willingly. And we know he left it behind willingly because Yamato and the armor ended up somewhere else. So he had to leave
Well,
the amulet behind in some
we know he
capacity.
left it behind willingly because when he saw the amulet for the first time on Dante's thing, he reacted to it, and that was the thing that broke control of him. That's what allowed him to have a little bit more rationale towards the end. This is why he was able to at least break free and power up a little bit. Um, but it's also that like he had like we have no well, what is it? As Zim said, like the Nello Angelo armor didn't explode when he teleported away, so there would have been no reason for the perfect amulet to just drop out of his like inventory, we'll call it. There was no reason for it to just drop out of his possession from the from the from his body if his armor isn't falling apart. Like, why would something inside of his armor fall out if he's teleporting and taking all of his armor with him, which is on the outside of his body? Like, the only thing that he drops that we can confirm that isn't as a result of that is the Zweihander, because you hear it drop. So we can conclude that if he dropped the amulet, he did that of his own free will.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't dropped with the rest of the armor, which was dropped after the fact. And he must have broken free. So, even if it wasn't, I mean, like, the fact is, he, like, even if you wanted to say it's all Virgil's fault, like, all of his actions, whether you believe he's responsible as Nello Angelo or you don't think he's responsible, he is the reason Mundus gets defeated either way. Because if he is responsible, all his crimes amount to is fighting Dante and then giving him the perfect amulet anyway. As opposed to fighting Dante under someone else's control and giving the perfect amulet in spite of being in someone else's control. So there's no circumstance where he's looking bad here.
Yeah,
Like, it just
Michelangelo all across the board. That can't really be attributed to Virgil being evil, and the few things he does do are net positives or for the good of like everyone.
not to mention
Well, what
I do
about
need to
Gulliver?
I do need to bring up that because Dante beats Mundus and he survives, by default, he also survives to beat Abigail in the anime and
Are
Argosax
you just gonna throw
and
all of
Mundus.
Dante's wins for Virgil?
Well, the only reason he lives afterwards is
You
because he
know,
survives the battle
I'm
with
not saying
Mundus,
Virgil did all this, but
which is
Virgil allowed it
due
to
to
happen.
Virgil. Virgil's the whole reason he's there in the first place.
All
Virgil's
this
the only
stuff
reason.
Dante did for the human race, you give that to Virgil right now.
You do realize Virgil, like Dante, knew literally nothing about the Sparta sword. Virgil is the only reason he figures out any of this information in proper, because
Laughs
Virgil
in
explains it
DMC
to him.
5.
Well, I'm saying during DMC3.
During this too, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so yeah, personally, through there, three and one we covered already completely. Now on to the real
Also,
shebang. abandoning
Well, hang
Nero.
on, hang on. I gotta go over 4 as well
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say abandoning
we
his child,
we need. Well,
pulling
no,
an inner city move.
leaving his child in a city which is the safest place in the world for him because it's a
Virgil's got the
cult.
wrong skin color.
Granted, they're a religious cult, but they're a cult that's dedicated to murdering demons. So they could potentially have the strongest fighters on the planet that would be strong enough to keep him safe. But I mean, besides mentioning that very obvious thing, Nero's existence is a benefit to the people of Fortuna because he ends up protecting them from the demons and from the Order
I
as well.
don't think anyone is going to say that Virgil having Nero is an evil move. I don't think you have to justify
I
that one.
need Zim, I need to mention this just to mention how much good Virgil does when he's not even trying to do it. Like if Virgil wanted to
He
be a
just
good
pumped and
guy,
dumped this girl,
he
but
would be so good. It wouldn't like he would just shit all over Dante and Tusa.
I
Well,
love
not
how
that
you're
Dante
attributing
really
Virgil's lack of a pullout game to him being one of the
not that Dante is really a good example of what a good person needs to be. He's just someone who gets the job done. Like he and someone if the demons attack and someone shows up to get him a job, then he shows up there and takes care of business. And that's it. And then causes a massive amount of collateral damage and that's like and then pays for it afterwards with his weapons. So I guess we have to move on to 5 then.
Thank goodness Virgil doesn't have that pullout game. Otherwise, fucking DMC5 would
So
be very different.
5's a little complicated because Virgil shows up and V explains that he does separate himself in the hopes that he can like
Okay, so
fight
first let's
Dante.
break down motivation and everything. So obviously the first hurdle we have to cross, disarming his son.
Um well, oh yeah, I completely skipped over that. Well, I kind of tied it in with just the motivation to fight Dante because all of that is done specifically because he wants to fight his brother. Um and in this moment he's in a moment of extreme weakness. The corruption is killing him and he's literally dying. So I have to understand that a person, when they're dying, is not prone to attempting to make rational decisions. If they want to live, they're going to attempt to live at all costs. Okay, at all practical costs, rather. Virgil has no one in his life who he cares about significantly enough to avoid not damaging them. Because, again, Dante was the only person, but this is post DMC1 where he has reasons to hate Dante significantly. Whereas before he didn't have reason to kill him. Now one could make a strong argument why he would want to kill Dante. And he doesn't know who Nero is. He has no idea that Nero is his son. So, and even if he did, he doesn't have a reason to particularly protect him because again, like this isn't like right after Nero was born or right after he knocked a girl up or something like that where he has an attraction to the person who birthed him. This is like what's it called? This is like 3 decades afterwards. This is way further after the fact. Way
There's
removed, and
no
he's
way
not.
this guy's my son. I'm pretty sure Dante got laid at some point in this time
Well,
period.
it's just that it's so much time has passed. He's not thinking about this currently. His only goal is staying alive, and that guy has his sword, so he's going to attempt to get it. You could say disarming Nero threatens the human world, but like since Nero again got his arm bandaged up that quickly, all it really does is send Nero on a quest of revenge. Which, if Nero succeeded, yes, that could backfire. I think you could argue if Vergil wasn't responsible for Urizen, and if V was someone else, right, and then Vergil returned at the end as a result of something else, some shenanigans, and then Nero succeeded in killing him, you could argue Vergil, in the totality of his actions in 5, would be a villain. Because the totality of Vergil's actions would be taking out a person who could potentially defend the human world. Even if Vergil doesn't like doing it, very clearly Vergil is very good at defending the human world when he's not trying to do it. or
Unintentionally best fucking hero.
He unironically does better unintentionally than people who very ironically are attempting to do it purposefully. That's the problem. So the only situation where I think you could argue like feasibly that he would be a villain is if like Nero killed him and he attempted to do that because he knows that would be a detriment to the human world. But that's beside the point here. I sort of bring it up as like, I guess like something in the background to consider. So he's dying. He needs his sword back.
Yeah.
That's why he takes his arm off. Completely legitimate when you consider. I would say justifiable when you're dying.
Justifiable. That one would be a different story for most people.
Well, you're dying, so
Mangler over here. If you live, that's all that matters.
Well, again, it's not like he tried to finish Nero off. He just took off his arm and attempted to get Yamato.
Consider this a spanking for all the years I was away.
Not to mention, for all intents and purposes, if his DT had activated the way that it should have, he should have still had a healing factor. But apparently, it went with Yamato. Yamato was Vergil's DT energy. So the real complicated one to talk about is Urizen and V, because here's the thing: like Vergil very clearly, he makes it clear as V that his intent is to defeat Dante. So he has to save himself first from this corruption, and he makes it very clear that he could only do one thing with the crumbling flesh and the feelings. He must separate them with the strength of Yamato.
That's why you guys should never have feelings.
Yeah, don't have feelings. So he believes that what is killing him, he literally thinks what is killing and poisoning his body is his humanity. And he has to separate it to save himself, and then he can go fight Dante. The problem is, it's corruption from Mundus's body. But Mundus never explained this to him because Mundus wanted him to suffer. Newsflash, guys. Mundus hates Vergil. I don't know if you...
I don't know. He seemed pretty chill. He seemed like the kind of guy that go out with coffee and brunch.
Yeah, so since Vergil never got an explanation, and, you know, the only time he could have asked him was after he teleported away and was no longer under his control and would have wanted to kill Mundus, and gotta say, like, maybe an hour, 30 minutes later or so, Mundus fucking dies. So it's not like he's gonna have
the entire events take place like in like 20 minutes. I'm pretty sure the end of DMC is like 20 minutes. It does not take
It's
that
a
long.
Short time afterwards Mundus dies.
Well, I mean, it's not like that would matter, Mangler, because Vergil's already in the future.
So he doesn't get an explanation as to how this works or how it can be removed from him. So he's just dying, and he's like, it must be my humanity. Which is kind of weird for him to come to that conclusion when the 18 years of his life, his humanity wasn't killing him then.
Well, I'll go ahead and give my personal take on this one since Mangler provided his personal take. I'll explain it.
I'm stumped.
Okay, so I think what happened here specifically was Vergil's body was dying. We don't know a specific reason why. Let's say it was the corruption Mundus fucking inflicted on him. Instead of Vergil thinking humanity was poisoning him, Vergil, because he is more affiliated with his demon half overall, he decided to just toss out the corruption into his human half and keep his demon half. But as a result, everything that made him like not a complete asshole and evil went with the human half and went dying.
Well,
so everything that remained was evil.
Well, his body was, what's it called? His body was literally crumbling. He says he could only do anything with the crumbling flesh and feelings. So he presumed that his body was dying because of his humanity.
And then it said he split man from devil. But
yeah.
So
I don't know if he knew about the corruption specifically, but we know for a fact the corruption is what is killing him.
Well, what we could argue here is because Vergil's body becomes a demon, by knocking out humanity, he knocks out his human form, which is the one that's dying to the corruption, not the demon half.
I guess you could say that like the thing is we don't know exactly like what he's specifically intending to do. We just know his goal is to live.
Hey, thanks,
He wants to
B2B.
live and he knows he has to separate himself to live. He
I
was
think that
correct.
I think that one actually makes the most sense, or I guess we'll let people decide based on what they heard. But I think now that makes the most sense that because the human half of Vergil is dying by tossing out the human half and becoming a pure demon, by corruption.
Either way,
And then V
um,
reinserts himself back into the demon form, completing the infinity loop, and then becomes cured.
and he becomes the alpha and the omega.
He is actually the one. It's the Matrix.
so so the issue with this and this where this becomes a problem for Vergil obviously is because Vergil, regardless of what you think, Vergil very clearly intended to just separate himself and then cure the corruption or whatever and then go fight Dante in fully control of his body. He did not know Urizen was going to be a thing. As soon as he becomes V and realizes, oh my god, all my thoughts and my memories and my consciousness are in this human body, and then all my powers in that one. He like if you look at the expression on his face, he's very clearly aware he fucked up. Um, when he talks to this about Trish, he says, "I realize the gravity of the crime that I've committed." So he's horrified by the fact that he did it, and he had no choice, but he still feels terrible about doing it. So
He's like, I should have just taken that L and just disappeared. But
So we have to get into the discussion then about like whether or not Vergil is responsible for the totality of like V and Urizen's actions and measure
yeah,
them
because
against like
this is very clearly going to be the main crux of the situation when it comes to talking about DMC5 and Vergil not being evil. Because most people attribute Urizen's actions directly to Vergil. And now, to be fair, I'll play a little devil's advocate here, irony, but Vergil's actions do lead to Urizen existing. So if you're just going to focus on that to that, I can understand why you attribute Urizen's actions to Vergil. But the game gives way more nuance to the situation that would kind of basically tell you otherwise that's not entirely the case.
yeah. This also you would also have to, if you're willing to argue that, you also have to concede that V and all of V's actions are also a result of Vergil, and the first thing he does, literally the first thing he does in Visions of V, is start gathering summons in an attempt to murder Urizen. Like his first thought is take out Urizen as quickly as possible. So even if, like, regardless of whether we put in lines there that V says I have to do this to save the human race or I have to do this to return to myself, both of them result in the same outcome with the same level of effort. So,
which was nothing.
well, that's because when he got Nightmare, he's like, I can do this. Wait, no, I can't summon him for long enough. I can't do this. Okay, I'll just get Dante. So he tries as hard as he possibly can, clearly fails, comes back a month later and decides, well, all right, we're gonna take him out, and he spends the entire time just taking out his Qlipoth roots through most of the game. Gets the Sparta sword, goes after Dante because he thinks that's. Well, he goes after Dante, gets the Sparta
Well,
sword.
no. He goes after the Sparta sword and then just happens to
Yeah,
find Dante right next to it.
yeah, it happens to find him.
Talk about getting lucky.
Then he wakes him up, and then he just helps Trish, quote unquote, doesn't really help her. She just makes her own clothes and just listens to him whine for like 5 minutes about his backstory.
Which is probably the best thing that's ever happened to him in like 20 years.
Yeah, no, seriously. So V directly gives plot information and about the fruits, both the roots, where it is.
I mean,
and
V's an essential source of information, is what you can say.
Yeah, so even if you want to say that like most of Dante's actions and Trish and anyone that gets information from V and acts on this information is a result of V's actions, aka Vergil's actions, if you're going to use Urizen's argument.
So
Though
you're going to say Nero's actions are a result of V and therefore attribute to V?
Yep, I can use that because Nero is also Vergil's son, so that goes double for him.
Man, just gonna go the full fucking route here, huh?
Yeah, no. If we're gonna go that far, also Urizen has amnesia, so Uh,
Yeah, what,
we
what
need
I
to
was gonna
mention
say
that.
there with Urizen is V's the one with the memories. Urizen isn't, so
Yeah,
you could
Yurzin
immediately.
literally doesn't remember anything. He says, "I have no name,"
Well, okay,
and then
so to be fair, he does remember Dante, so he remembers something, but like the core
he
of what made
remembers
Virgil.
he remembers the anguish that Virgil has, and specific like his hatred and his lust for power. His hatred for Dante and his lust for power and like his general arrogance are all that we know of, that he has. Like that's all we can currently confirm that he has, because he knows Dante, but Dante is the only one he confirms. Doesn't mention Trish, doesn't mention this, and some knowledge of the demon world apparently, because he mentions Devil Sword Sparta, so he knows what that is. But that's really it. Like he doesn't have anything else. He mentions he has no recollection of the tale or the place when he's in the Clyfoth, and he's like, "Oh hey, Dante gives him the one of the most important lines in the game and talks to him about how Ava decided to save him, and he says, "I don't know what this place is.
Why the fuck you lying?
Like, why are you talking to me about this? I don't know anything about it."
You got the wrong dude.
So it's very clear that Urizen is almost a completely different being because he has no knowledge or context or reason to explain this. So it's very difficult to attribute Vergil. Outside of Virgil's creation, it's extremely difficult to contribute Virgil to his Virgil's responsibility of Virgil's of
I
Urizen's
hate that she
action
just
on
sent me to go
Virgil's
buy rice
shoulders,
because apparently you guys
because
forgot to
Virgil's
buy rice and I have
not
to go waste my time.
like again this thing Virgil's consciousness attempts to do is stop this Urizen. So Virgil is in this scenario, and he's only represented as V, trying to stop Urizen. Urizen is a completely different being for all intents and purposes. Um, which is sort of why I throw out the line that, like, lovely, just mute yourself. So this is kind of why I throw out the line that in DMC5, there's like three roles for Vergil, or the Vergils, if you will. That V is an anti-hero, Urizen is a villain, and Vergil is an antagonist because it best describes the role. V is very clearly contrast to Urizen, and his purpose exists almost specifically to oppose said villain. And he does things that are both in line as well as against some of the protagonists. Um, Urizen is very clearly a force of evil, or a force of net negatives, or bads, if you will. I mean, he exists to basically become king of everything and power over everything, which includes the human world. So he's just doing what any other demon king would do. The only difference is that he's more powerful than the rest of them. So we can for certain call him evil. Can't say the same thing for Vergil in 5, because all he's doing in 5 when he comes back is that he just wants to fight Dante. Even if you want to say that the result of that is that he would end up killing Dante, um, and that would be a net negative. I mean, that would also end any potential strife and problems with between the two of them that would cause any other related outcomes from happening, like this one. So also the fact that Dante mentions that the reason they can go into the demon world is because Nero exists there, because he's powerful enough to defend the human world. Not to mention Trish and Lady, and most of them are on call anyway. So it's not as if it's not as if Virgil killing Dante really has any significant impact in terms of protecting the human world, unless a being comes along that's even greater than them. Which, again, I don't see that happening unless it's like the original Demon King or Sparta. I don't see any reason for us to believe that Dante killing Virgil or Virgil killing Dante really has like too much of a net consequence here, because given the severity of their actions, well, it's hard. Given the severity of their actions in comparison to one another, it's really hard for me to picture That is a rational argument when Nero already exists in the human world defending it. He already facilitates the purpose that they're attempting to do, or at least that's as Dante likes to say, as they would do, but it's really just Dante because Virgil's not really defending the human world. He just very ironically ends up defending the human world as a result of just being involved as the Sparta family. And that has more to do with the fact that he wants to surpass his father and he wants to be like his father. And as a result, he ends up hating a lot of the demon kings. Well, the only one we know he hates is Mundus, but he would have defeated Argisax regardless because Argisax threatens the world where he lives. So, whether he cares about that world is irrelevant to whether he wants to continue living in it. This is also without even regarding the fact that like Vergil and Dante make up after Nero shows up and breaks them up. So they just decide to fight each other in the demon world where they would just kill a ton of demons as well. So they're actually cutting down the demons on the other side of the that portal. So if a demon king decides to pop up and they're ever bored, they can literally just go take them out immediately and save more lives. So yeah, I only see positives here. I see this as a win-win. I don't see this as any sort of issue, which is why I find it difficult then to like attribute Urizen's actions to Vergil. I can attribute V's, and I think it's fair to attribute V's because V is Vergil's consciousness. Like that's all of his memories and his total collective consciousness. It's just the difference is that he doesn't have any of those social parameters preventing him from expressing himself, which is why he's such a fucking dork. Like taunts for days, reading William Blake for like 50 million years because I need to express my insecurities. It's great, but it's also mostly just Vergil, but without the restrictions. Not that he isn't still sort of antisocial, because he still is. He's still like V is so much closer to Vergil in every regard than like Urizen ever will be. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to rationalize putting those two in the same pot. Also, Vergil fulfills the role of an antagonist pretty accurately if we're considering dying Vergil as well as like fresh Vergil, because dying Vergil just does this to stop Dante, who is one of the protagonists of the story. Maybe not the main one. I would say the main one is definitely Nero, but still the protagonist. He, even if you don't want to say that's not his goal, is to fight Nero, he is in Nero's way at the end of the game. Like Nero wants him to stop fighting. He doesn't want to stop fighting, but he doesn't want to fight Nero. He's not willing to fight Nero, but he ends up doing it. So he's an antagonist. He ends up fighting Dante, who is also one of the protagonists. So he fulfills the conditions pretty accurately, right down to the letter. Yeah, I just don't think there's pretty much everything. There's not much else that I can cover. I guess we'll have to ask Zim, like, what he feels. He's sort of like, I guess he stepped out. Left me high and dry to carry this video. Sounds about right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where exactly did you leave off? Because I couldn't hear half of that.
So I just kind of talked about how the fact that I don't think you can attribute Urizen's actions to Vergil, but you can attribute V's, because V basically summarizes a mass majority of like his existence, his memories, his collective consciousness, the entirety of his personality with just slightly less restrictions, whereas Urizen is just a couple different aspects of him and like no memories, no knowledge,
The majority
and none of
of
the
yeah,
development.
no, like absolutely, you're correct. The majority of what made Vergil Vergil went to V and then everything else went to fucking Urizen, which like was very little bit of Vergil's character. It was perhaps the most prominent aspects of his character, if you would ask most people, but the majority of stuff.
Oh, there was one thing I forgot. But
You had
keep
20
going.
minutes to yourself and you forgot something.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I mean, go ahead. I'll let you finish your thought.
I was gonna say, like, if anyone's like, yeah, Virgil was responsible for doing all this. I mean, that doesn't work. But even if you wanted to say that, Virgil, the first thing he does after Nero shows up and gives him the one thing he wanted his entire life, a family member telling them that they care about him,
Oh, I
he
would say, what, a
immediately
friend?
he immediately decides to sever the Qliphoth tree and cut off the demon world from the human world and stay in it with his brother and sort out his issues. Something that would directly benefit the human world were they to return. I only mentioned that it's not relevant for them to return because Nero and the rest of the other devil hunters have the human world protected. Most of the demon kings have been wiped out, but if they're ever bored and a demon king pops up, they can just wipe him out on that side. So it's not, and they can leave anytime they want. So if there's ever an issue, they can just return to the demon world and take it out before it even arrives. If it happens to get through, they can take it out when it gets into the human world. So there's not really an outcome where Vergil, what's it called? Like, there's not really an outcome where Vergil becomes evil, because you can't prove that his involvement is inherently negative, like, at the end result, because every contributing action of him is a positive one. Which,
Yeah, no, like Virgil's net actions are all positive. Kind of like another misunderstood person in media I'm aware of.
yeah, now it's your time to keep talking because I have to go to the restroom. I'll be gone for like 20 seconds.
All right, don't worry. I'll keep it rolling. Okay, so sorry about it, ladies and gentlemen. My brother came in here with some news, and that's why I was gone. So yeah, all of Virgil's actions inherently are net positives. Urizen specifically has amnesia, and most of Virgil's actual motivation behind his actions come from the past. Urizen is just a hollow shell with just the superficial stuff added on top of it. We do have some characterization with Urizen, but nothing that you can attribute his actions to Vergil specifically. And because we see that Vergil's original goal, even in Visions of V, is never stated to awaken the Qliphoth tree or anything like that. It's strictly to stay alive and kill Dante, or beat Dante.
Now, actually, Visions of V...
Okay, genuine question. Is your bathroom 2 seconds away from you, or do you take your fucking mic with you to the fucking bathroom?
Yeah, well, I do, but I mute myself. I wash my hands.
No, you clearly don't. You were gone for 30 Mangler, go wash your hands properly for once in your life.
I was already in the bathroom.
Can you try washing your hands properly for once in your life?
I did.
That doesn't sound like 20 seconds to me, Buster!
The bathroom is literally an arm's length away from my bedroom. Like, what?
Okay.
It's very close.
No, I'll believe you. Son of a bitch, fucking guy goes to pee and he's back 2 seconds later.
Let's also mention that V in Visions of V explains that until he starts dying, so for the majority of DMC5, like half of DMC5 and all of the month before, unless Visions of V confirmed this, because Visions of V is the one that does confirm this, he doesn't care about having a pissing contest with Dante. He explains very clearly he doesn't want to go back to being a loser who just can't give up, because being V makes him realize, oh my god, that was extremely stupid to try and fight Dante all those times. Not because I thought I would lose, of course, but because there's no point. Like, he's an idiot. I'm above him. I don't have any reason to do this anymore. I'm not some loser who would have a problem with this.
I'm not some loser on the street.
Yeah, I'm not a losing streak. In fact, if we count Nello Angelo, I technically still won.
I have the winning streak. I claim the high ground.
That's right. I remember the manga. He very clearly states in Visions of V, in one of the first chapters. It's right when he gets. I believe right when he's like starving, or getting food. I guess after he gets Shadow. Yeah, it's after he gets Shadow that he doesn't want to start a pissing contest with Dante. He doesn't care about fighting him anymore. So something changes in between then and there that causes him to come to the understanding that he wants to fight Dante. But for most of the time as V, we can confirm that he doesn't care about fighting Dante.
Yeah.
So this is just so even if you wanted to say that was a net positive, like net negative, that's not even consistent with what he believes. So
Just not consistent with him.
he's still responsible for Nero's birth. I'm gonna hang that over everybody's fucking head.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think you can hang over Nero's fucking existence.
I can't. I totally can. Nico, you want it? Nico agrees with me. You know, my father was an asshole, but I wouldn't be here if it were for him. That's a biological fact. I'm sorry, I know how biology works.
I don't want to hear that from you right now after fucking everything you and I discussed.
Evidently, Vergil is the reason Nero exists. So I get to sit over here and say that
Nero is only born because Vergil busted a nut. Therefore, if Vergil never busted that nut, everything good Nero did never would have happened.
Wouldn't happen. Yeah.
Therefore, all good actions are attributed to Vergil.
And if Nero did some shit, then there's a possibility we could attribute that to him because Vergil is also his father. So Nero carries traits from him and things that would pass down through his bloodline that are parts of his personality.
Is that where fucking your sister comes in?
You know what? Forget about it. Never mind, guys. You can't count Nero.
No, but all seriousness, like, I mean, I understand that technically that's fair game, but I know for a fact no one's going to be satisfied with that answer.
So someone actually tried to argue to me that if I use that, I can't use him making Urizen. Like, that's even remotely the same fucking thing. When he tried to... Well, I don't want to say he tried to make Nero, but he had a good reason to make Nero. He had no reason to make Urizen.
Yeah, very clearly she was a very good reason. He remembered her 30 years later.
No, well, yeah, I mean, if we want to go that argument, he knows her. When he comes back, he's like, hey, Nero's your son. The first thing he's like, oh, I remember that, you know, like, but behind all the 9 years of mental torture,
all the torture, all the torment,
16 years of like dying and decay, possibly fighting demons or crackpot DeLorean theory, whatever have you. If not, still a decade of mental torture, and then like all the suffering in my normal life. Oh yeah, no, that one happy like moment, that night of like. That night of like pride and joy.
Vergil very clearly fucking had a 10 out of 10 there on his hands. Very clearly.
Yeah, no. He very clearly remembers it, and it's something important to him. You don't believe me? There's an interview with Dan Southworth, Vergil's voice actor, who is talking with Mills, and who is a mod from the one of the DMC subreddit discords, along with some other people. And they were asking him questions that were submitted through their Discord. And someone asked them what they thought Nero's mother would be, and he confirmed that at least he would believe that Vergil, not that I need to say this is pretty fucking obvious, that if Vergil, I think that if it's someone Vergil was willing to pick, if it's someone Vergil truly remembers, that it must be someone very important to him, for her to have his attention. So, I mean, he remembered her 2.5 decades after the fact and was like, yeah.
I low-key want to put a headcanon down that fucking Nero's mom is just in the sword, and that's why it worked for Nero.
It was in the what?
It was in Yamato the entire time.
His mother's soul was in Yamato? Is that what you're saying?
I wanna believe. If Eva can be in the amulet, I want to believe she's in the Yamato, and that's why
we can make a strong argument that he could have created Nero, or not that he could have created it, that he wanted to create Nero, or that he was willing to be okay with those consequences, and he knew fully well But Urizen, we know for a fact he did not want to make, because immediately after it happened, or as it happened, he was like, no, this is not what I wanted. So, yeah, that's about the size of it. You can't really prove that anything Vergil does is a negative.
Okay, so to clarify here for Mr. fucking Stoic facts over here. Okay, everything Vergil does inherently has no significant negative effects in response to the positive outcomes.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough negative outcomes to overcome the positive ones. And even if they aren't inherently positive, usually they're not negative enough. So they either come out as neutral or
which is
weak
really
negatives.
Fucking highballing the bad stuff if you're going to call it neutral.
Well, I mean, it, like, again, I've had so many people say that it's like, why is Vergil still killing people in, like, 5? Like, yeah. Why does everybody forgive Vergil?
The other thing I wanted to point out there is Vergil's inherent actions are not directly to cause misfortune or chaos. When Arkham was over there jerking himself off about chaos and evil, Vergil's like, shut the fuck up and open the door.
Yeah, no. Vergil kills him the first excuse that he gets. You do realize, you guys do realize Vergil is disgusted with Arkham, right? Like, I don't think I need to explain that.
Disgusting.
No, he literally is. He's like, the excuse that he gives for killing him is that, oh, you studied the Black Arts, so you sacrificed your loving wife so you could become a devil as well. But knowing this, I thought you would be more useful to me, but I was wrong. Now, he explains the reason why he kills him, or at least we're led to believe, is because, you spared a human. That was your human weakness. Now, the reason he acts aggressively is that, but the reason he attacks him in the first place is just because he has a convenient excuse to get rid of him.
Ignores that Vergil spared Alice and shit.
Yeah, no. Vergil has spared plenty of people that have gotten in his way. If we're gonna go there, like.
Sorry, you spared her. Clearly, you're weak.
You know what he spared? He spared the fucking Mad Hatter, and the Mad Hatter tried to kill Dante before him.
He spared the Mad Hatter. He spared Alice. He spared Lady. Very clearly, Lady. Arkham did something differently from the others.
No. Arkham was different because, well, first of all, even if he knew about Arkham trying to betray him, he would have killed him like instantly. But even without that, Arkham, again, said he was going to get him to the demon world. He killed him even before that because he's just like, I guess I can make it from here. I don't really want to be with a person like you anymore. He doesn't make it very explicitly clear that he doesn't want Arkham around unless you just look at his facial expressions. Every time Arkham opens his mouth, he's tired of him talking. Every time Arkham talks about the purpose for which the tower was intended, Vergil is like, that's enough. Don't talk to me. Leave the fucking room. Shut up. Like, he's disgusted. He closes his eyes. He's extremely annoyed by everything that Arkham does.
Vergil, they're holding him out. Just remember your training, Vergil. Just breathe in deeply.
Again, Vergil isn't petty enough to kill someone over something that's like because they annoy him. He has to have a very good reason for why he wants to kill you.
Everyone has a limit, Mangler, and Vergil found his out that day.
He does have a limit, but if that's true, he would have sliced Lady into a million pieces.
You know, actually, come to think of it, I think Arkham's the only human Vergil looks at with genuine disgust throughout the entire DMC3 lineup.
The only human that what?
He's the only person he actually looks at with genuine disgust, or just is super.
Yeah, no.
Because Dante says shit, but Vergil's never really annoyed with Dante the way he is.
No, Vergil knows he's irrational, but when he sees Arkham, he's like, dude, I don't care about the purpose of this tower,
dude. Chill.
But evil.
Chill.
Arkham is literally. It's amazing to me that people tell me that Vergil is now. I would say Vergil is the main antagonist, but technically Arkham is a villain. You can argue Arkham is a villain because Arkham wanted to kill as many of those people as possible. He wanted to kill as many people as he possibly could. The dude is a fucking sociopath, and Vergil is very clearly disgusted with him. Every time he sees him, he's like, "I can't stand you." Every scene
do you exist?
Why do you even exist? Just to make me suffer? He looks at Dante, and Dante gets in the way of all of his plans. and he still has according to Five, a deep hatred of him. So even the person that he's grown up his entire life that's made him somewhat miserable in his childhood and is still irritating and annoying to be around is still more bearable than a guy that he's only had to be around for a little bit of time. And that guy is helping him get there.
Son of a bitch.
And the other guy, who's more insufferable, is going against him, and he's never willing to call Dante disgusting.
The way Vergil looks at Dante is like, oh, this guy again. Arkham, oh, this guy again.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
I didn't even think about it in the DMC5 context there. Yeah, no. Very clear.
Yeah, that's why subtlety matters. Like, facial expressions are extremely important. If you go back and watch some of these cutscenes, you catch some scenes that are like, wait a minute, that was there the entire time. Like, he looks at Arkham in that scene, I think, when they're it's when they're opening the lower port, you know, the lower door after, I think it's like outside the whale, like room. When they're opening it, he's just like, yes, fear, that thing that this tower cried out in fear. And Vergil is just kind of like looking over at him with like some stern eye, like, and he's just like, dude, stop giving me a reason to murder you. Like,
you're not making it easy for me not to kill you, is all I'm trying to say.
Like, again, Vergil doesn't have these looks at him in the manga, which is an interesting thing. No, he doesn't mention these things.
No. I disagree. When Vergil goes up to the first fallen angel, Vergil already looks annoyed with Arkham shit.
Well, no. I'm talking about like most of the time that he's like.
Yeah, when he initially meets Arkham, like book 1 and like a bit of book 2, it's not there. But like I remember distinctly in the fallen angel scene, Vergil looks annoyed as fuck with Arkham.
Yeah.
Did your dog summon you?
In a little bit, so I've only got like 2 minutes.
Well, that's fine. We're already at 56 minutes in.
Good. So
I'm gonna get another comment saying like, "Why is Mangler the majority of this video?" And this time I'll actually have a genuine.
Because excuse. I am the video.
If this video was just me alone, this video would be done like in like 10 minutes tops, maybe. I am very quick to the point.
Vergil's not evil. Yep. Enough said. Video.
Well, no, I mean, like, it's because like I'm very quick to the point. I don't elaborate too far beyond it because like I let the evidence speak for itself. Although I wouldn't have attributed all of Nero's actions to Vergil, so
even if I didn't do that, context is important. I need to mention the breakdown of what roles are and how they relate to Vergil, and what the meaning of how we define certain words before people just start throwing out terms like good and evil. Like describing Dante as a hero. Just in the same way that describing Vergil as like a villain is kind of shallow, in my opinion. Because it's like, yeah, Vergil, like, I mean, Nero, like, if you have no context, yeah, I guess you could argue Vergil's a villain. If we have no context either, I guess you could argue Dante's a hero for stopping him. But like, Dante's only a hero in the sense that like,
Dante's a hero for stopping him from saving us. Thanks, Dante.
Yeah. I'd also like to mention that since we're on the subject of Vergil, like the only reason Vergil doesn't kill Mundus and literally every Demon King in the underworld when he has every reason or right to and has knowledge of doing so is because Dante is there to stop him.
Yeah, so all that bad shit that happens going forward, you know, all those big events would have stopped if Dante just had not been a dick.
Which is why it's extremely ironic when Dante is the one that kills all the Demon Kings after one. He's just like, I'll finish what you started, brother.
You're an asshole.
And then goes on a kill streak and wipes them all out.
Dante's like, yeah, this was the right thing to do. You know, if only I knew someone else who was going to do this.
Yeah, there's no one else who would have done this. No one.
Vergil just fucking looks at him and like wherever the fuck he is. Like, you serious?
Yeah.
So for context, because I know someone's gonna say inevitably like Vergil's goal wasn't to attack Mundus or anything, or that's never confirmed. Vergil's goal is to protect... mention it earlier. Oh, you did take care of that in your 20-minute spiel.
I did mention earlier that like his goal is to protect himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say Vergil's goal is to protect everything important. So by extension,
it's not just that he wants to protect himself. he knows that Mundus is alive. He knows that Mundus is responsible for killing his family.
I just want to protect myself from random demons despite having Yamato. It's not like there's some big guy who's after me.
Arkham also makes it clear that he knows about Mundus as well. I don't know if Arkham knows.
Yeah, in the manga, Arkham mentions the Prince of Darkness or whatever, confirming that Mundus has all the demon powers.
Well, he refers to him as the king of the demon world, but he basically says, we will wait for the day when the king of the demon world will arrive.
When Mundus actually calls himself a demon emperor and just fucking wants to stab Arkham repeatedly. I am the emperor.
Yeah, he's just like, stop getting the terminology fucked.
I won! Argo Sex is gone right now. I'm the one who's on top. I'm the captain now.
There's a scene, I believe, I have it here somewhere.
Are you going through the manga right now or what?
Yeah, I'm looking through my photos to find the...
I'm just reciting everything from memory because I have a really good memory when it comes to shit I read.
Well, usually I would, but it's a specific line that he says. So what he says is that when the 7 bells have tolled, we shall impart our blessings. The terror of the ancient time shall come about once more. When the king of the demon realm casts his gaze upon us, we wait for that day. This is Arkham saying this. So Arkham is fully aware that the Demon King is going to come looking for them when they open that fucking portal.
Living on borrowed time from square one.
And Vergil is walking away, and Vergil is aware of this. He can hear all that Arkham is saying. So even if you want to say that Vergil's not aware, like, he knows.
Oh, yeah, like, because we know Vergil's hearing extends at least a good several kilometers.
No. Vergil, that's not even, like, negotiable. There's a scene in Mission 4 where he senses Lady, her gender, and her location from, like, the top of Temenaguru down to the room above Cerberus. Well, if you want to sit here and tell me he can't hear Arkham, like...
Well,
unless you want to convince me that it's Vergil saying it, which if it's Vergil saying it, it has even less of a counter argument.
I was gonna go off Mission 2. How Dante sees Vergil and talks to Vergil, and you know Vergil heard him because Dante said it, and Vergil even like sort of just looks down at Dante. So I was gonna say, like, we can tell Vergil can hear from a really long distance.
We know he can sense you just by like closing his eyes, and by concentrating. So
Vergil's sensory perception, like, we don't really talk about it too often, and I don't want to focus on it too much, but that shit is
kind of stupid
as hell. Fucking people are like, you can surprise attack Vergil, attack him from behind. No, you really can't. Not this one. Maybe Dante, but not Vergil. This guy knows where you're at all the time.
You can't even do it to Dante. Like, Dante can sense you from a room's distance. Vergil can sense you from a mile away. Like,
Vergil just chilling out. Oh, someone's coming to fight me.
Anyone thinks this still isn't a thing? Like, he does it in 5 too.
Yeah, he's over there just sitting on his chair,
which is leaving the Earth's atmosphere.
Vergil's sensory abilities. Okay, so Nero's all the way down there, and Dante is
no. It's even further in 5s. I'm not gonna sit here and say that like
space.
And all he's literally doing the exact same thing. He's just sitting in a chair. Actually, he's not even sitting in the chair when he senses him. He's standing up when he's doing the monologue, and then he sits down.
If Vergil's sensory perception goes all the way up to space, dude, that'd be fucking busted, because that means, like, nothing could fucking surprise him in the slightest. He would
no, like...
Well, I mean, we already know he has omnidirectional vision because none of the Hell Prides can, like, attack him. So we already see this in action in DMC 3 at the beginning of his cutscene.
Actually, those aren't Prides. Those are abysses, which are above Prides.
Fair enough. Yeah, but, you know, they didn't come back for fucking 5. Yeah. They really should. They should release a DLC pack at some point for enemy types.
Do you have anything else to add?
No. I feel like you covered everything in the 20 minutes. I added my extra cents in there, talked about a bit more, but I'm pretty sure you did a good enough job covering everything.
Okay. Oh wait. There was one more thing, and then I gotta go either.
20 minutes.
I do want to say that it's very clear that V states, even if you want to say his main goal is to return to being Vergil, the goal that he states to Nero, the only person, aka the only person he trusts in DMC 5 or at all, he says, "I want to be protected and loved. I wanted to be protected and loved."
But then my brother decided to try and kill me.
Yes, I wanted to be protected and loved, but I was alone. My only choice was to survive. So I could argue that being protected and being loved is more important to him than killing Dante, because Nero
Only
literally
slightly.
proves it wrong. Like,
Only slightly more.
it is, but
It's like a
then
49 to
immediately
50%
he
ratio.
immediately does a full 180 and is like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna have a game with my brother where we kind of like attempt to stab each other, and if we do, then the other one has to take a knee and then take score. And then he went from like I'm gonna murder you to like, all right, let's spar some. We'll see how we do. I'm gonna be the better one here and beat you without taking any damage. I don't
Score
need to
for
kill you
me.
to beat
I'm
you.
up one. Where'd you learn to count? We're even. I would just love to know what number they're on. That's what I'd like to know.
That line delivery was perfect. But yeah, I could argue that would be more important to him than maybe not than returning to himself, but certainly more important than killing Dante.
All right. So Mangler's gotta go fucking take care of his dogs, and I think we got the point across pretty well. So thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. And please do not repeat the idea that why did Mangler do most of this video? This time my brother came in for like 20 minutes, so I haven't passed this time.
Yeah, you're welcome.